welcome to this week's show. This week in the show we're talking about urban terrain. We're talking about buildings very specifically, and we're here on the village field, so let's see what we can do, huh? Okay, so for the sake of argument, what is a building? Now normally a building would be a structure that has 4 walls, doorways, windows, and all the other good stuff, but when you're playing at a paintball field, a building does not necessarily have to have 4 walls. Like for example, this structure right here. As you can see, it does have a front, but you can look through the window and you can see that there's no backside. That's because it's what's called a facade. A facade is just a building front, obviously. It might just be a facade, but it works just as well as a building with 4 walls does, because in this case, this is against the back line, and all you need protection from is the front. So it really pays to be flexible in your definitions of buildings when you're playing on fields like this. Now one thing you do want to check on before you start playing in these buildings is check if there's any field-specific rules about the buildings. Now what kind of stuff I'm talking about is like at Fox River Games here, if somebody runs up to the building and touches the door frame, everybody inside the building is eliminated. These are the kind of field-specific rules you need to ask your referee about before you start playing. I actually managed to hit it that time. Good thing. When you're playing behind a building like this, you can use it just like any other standard bunker. So a lot of your skill set doesn't change. I mean, you can still do the snap shooting, you can still do your rate of fire or whatever that you get into. But this is not just another big pretty rock. There's actually a couple things about playing behind buildings that you really want to look for, and the biggest thing is watching your angles. Now, when I'm talking about angles when in buildings, I'm talking about using the buildings and using the features of the buildings to your advantage. What I want to teach you right now is something called threading the needle, in which you're going to be able to put a paintball through very small, tiny slats and holes in order to hit something. And you know, the one time I don't bring my caution tape is the one time I need it. Now, when you're looking at windows and door frames, you're looking at them usually straight on. But what I want you to do is I want you to look at them from a slight angle like this. It's very similar to tree walking that we covered last year, except you're using this for shooting lanes. Now if you're looking at this from the straight ahead angle right here, if you're looking straight, there's really not a lot to look at, and it really doesn't offer you that much protection. Besides, if you're kind of hanging out at a building like this, you're going to look really weird. Now let's say there's a guy in a window right over there, and I'm behind this building here. If I can line up one slat, another slat, and the window that they're poking through, I can thread the needle and put a paintball on them. Okay, I know what you're saying. You're saying, Tiger, that shot's impossible. I mean, that hole can only be about 1 inch across. Well, guess what? A paintball is 0.68 inches across. If I've got a hole 1 inch wide, I can hit that. And like I said, all I need is 1 inch. You give me 1 inch, and I'm going to take it. Now, word to the wise, threading the needle works both ways. I mean, you might be behind a building like this and think you're perfectly safe and secure, then somebody gets on you from the angle and drills you in the side of the head. Then where are you? I'll tell you where you are. You're walking over to the dead zone. So let's talk about playing inside of a building. Now, sometimes when you're entering a building, it's a one-way trip, because when the paints are flying and that's the only way in and out, they're going to be soaking this in paintballs. So once you get inside a building, be prepared to stay a while. You know, set up the unwelcome mat, put up a white picket fence, you know, all that other good stuff. Now, when you get inside of a building like this, the first thing you want to do is quickly assess where the safe places are and where the unsafe places are. And, I mean, it should be pretty obvious. What you're looking for are knot holes, you're looking for slats, you're looking for windows, you're looking for bad angles that you don't want to be standing in. And, I mean, you can do this very quickly just by scanning around the place once. Once you've done that, you want to find a position where you can get behind cover, but you can still shoot out of the building. And sometimes the safest place to shoot out of a building is not right next to the wall. It's actually along the back wall. Now, you might think it's nuts to go into the back of a building to get more protection than right up against a window. I mean, it looks like you're just letting yourself hang out all the way in the back there. But, again, it's all about the angles. If you're standing right next to a window, you have to move about 2 or 3 feet to the left or to the right in order to use the window effectively. From the back of the building, all you have to do is move 1 inch to one side or 1 inch to the other side, and you can get just as much angle in the field as moving 3 or 4 feet next to a window. It's all about the angles. Now, another advantage to playing in the back of a building like this one is that when you're playing in the back, if there's a covered roof, it's dark in there. They can't see you, so they have no idea exactly where you are, and if they don't know where you're at, you can just start shooting people and have a lot of fun with it. I'm sorry, it's still the stealth thing. I really like that. Plus, inside of a building, you can still get protection from the back of the building as you can get from the front of the building. Just make sure you watch the windows and the door frames and all that good stuff. Okay. Tonight, I'll paint it on the walls. Fox River Games, if somebody runs up to the building and touches the... misses. It's here. Why is it that when I'm demoing a shot, it only takes me 1 or 2? But when I'm in front of the camera, it takes me a dozen.